A cephalophore is a saint who is generally depicted carrying his or her own head in art. This was usually meant to signify that the subject in question had been martyred by beheading. Handing the halo in this circumstance offers a unique challenge for the artist. Some put the halo where the head used to be, others have the saint carrying the halo along with the head. The term cephalophore was first used in a French article by Marcel Hébert, Les Martyrs Cephalophores Euchaire, Elophe et Libaire, in Revue de l'Université de Bruxelles, v. 19. Possible origins. The topos can be traced to two sources. In a homily on Saints Juventinus and Maximinus, John Chrysostom asserted that the severed head of a martyr was more terrifying to the devil than when it was able to speak. He then compared soldiers showing the wounds received in battle to martyrs holding the severed head in the hands and presenting it to Christ. The other source was the Western Vita of Saint Denis, founder of the See of Paris, who was identified in the text with Dionysius the Areopagite. Thus, an original, and perhaps the most famous cephalophore is Denis, patron saint of Paris, who, according to the Golden Legend, miraculously preached with his head in his hands while journeying the 7 miles from Montmartre to his burying place. Although Saint Denis is the best known of the saintly head carriers, there were many others. The folklorist Émile Noury counted no less than 134 examples of cephalophore in French hagiographic literature alone. Given the frequency with which relics were stolen in medieval Europe, stories like this, in which a saint clearly indicates his or her chosen burial site, may have developed as a way of discouraging such acts of furta sacra. Examples of cephalophoric saints. A cephalophoric legend of Nicosius of Rheims tells that at the moment of his execution, Nicosius was reading Psalm chapter 119. When he reached the verse Adis ad pavimento anima mea, he was decapitated. After his head had fallen to the ground, Nicosius continued the psalm, adding, Vivifies a me, Domine, secundum verbum tuum. The theme of the speaking head is extended in the 8th century Passio of Saint Justice of Beauvais. After the child had been beheaded by Roman soldiers, his father and brother found the corpse sitting with his head in his lap. Giving the head to his father, Justus asked him to carry it to Auxerre, that his mother, Felicia, might kiss it. The legend of Aphrodisias of Alexandria was transferred to Béziers, where his name was inserted at the head of the list of bishops. In the hagiographic accounts, Aphrodisias was accompanied by his camel. As he was preaching, a group of pagans pressed through the crowd and beheaded him on the spot. Aphrodisias picked up his head and carried it to the chapel which he had recently consecrated at the site. It is identified today as Place Saint Aphrodise, Béziers. Saint Gemola is said to have survived his decapitation and, after collecting his head, climbed on horseback. He rode to meet his uncle, a bishop, on a small mountain before he finally died. A legend associated with Saint Genès de la Yara states that after he was decapitated in southern France, he picked up his head and threw it into the Rhône. The head was carried by the sea to the coast of Cartagena in Spain, where it was venerated as a relic. In the Golden Legend, Paul the Apostle at his martyrdom stretched forth his neck and so was beheaded, and as soon as the head was from the body, it said, Jesus Christus, which had been to Jesus Christus, or both, 50 times. Quote, when the head was recovered and was to be rejoined to the body as a relic, in response to a prayer for confirmation that this was indeed the right head, the body of Paul turned to rejoin the head that had been set at its feet. In legend, the female Saint Osyth stood up after her execution, picking up her head like Saint Denis in Paris and other cephalophoric martyrs, and walking with it in her hands to the door of a local convent before collapsing there. Similarly, Valerie of Limoges carried her severed head away to her confessor, Saint Martial. Saint Cuthbert of Lindisfarne is often depicted with his head on his neck, shoulders and carrying a second head in his hand. hands. However, he is not of Cephalophore. The second head is that of St. Oswald of Northumbria, who was buried with him at Durham Cathedral. Gallery. List of cephalophores. Alban of Mainz, Aphrodisias, Aventin de l'Arbaust, Chryselius, Denis of Paris, Domninus of Fidenza, Emigdius, Elophe, Eurosia, Frajo, Felix and Regula, Theriolus de Besançon, Ferjou de Besançon, Gordons, Gemola, Genitor du Blanc, Ginez de la Yara, Gerhard de Nantes, Hilarion d'Espalion, Justice of Beauvais, Juthwara, Lambert of Saragosse, Lucien of Beauvais, Libaire de Grande, Livier de Marcel, Morin d'Argon, Maurice, Minias of Florence, Nectin, Nicasius of Rheims, Nicasius, Quirinus and Scubiculus, Noel, Ossith Principin, Quiteria, Reverinus, Saturnina, Solange, Theonistus, Traphine, Tremor, Valerie of Limoges, Vitors de Cerezo, Winifred, Willow,